All right, you're listening to 91.5 WUML Lowell Blues Deluxe. And today it's my honor and privilege to have Eric Johansen on with me. Hello, Eric.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's good. How's it going with you?
Going well. It's beautiful down here in New Orleans. It's one of the best times of the year. So, yeah, just been home for a little bit, just doing some short travel runs, but having a little bit more time home until after Jazz Fest, which is nice.
Yeah, and I was looking at your tour. Man, you're going to be all over the place coming up in the next few months. I mean, over in Europe and back here. You got quite a schedule.
Yeah, we did a lot last year. We were in Europe like four times, and then a lot in the US. And we have more stuff that's going to be announced that's not announced yet this year. But I can say that we will be doing another European tour. And so,
Well, that's good.
yeah.
How did you start out growing up? What made you decide you wanted to be a guitar player and be a professional musician?
For some reason, it always seemed to call to me, but I can remember, just some early concerts and honestly just seeing like MTV and stuff like that combined with people that I knew that older musicians that played and stuff. But for some reason it always just seemed like what I wanted to do. And yeah, I just I always gravitated toward it. And then the first times that I was able to go see like an arena show, then it really sealed the deal. Just it was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah, and you're right in the middle of all the great musicians and music down in New Orleans, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a really fortunate environment to me in terms of inspiration because it's really even the people that are successful and that tour, they come home and they play clubs and they interact with other musicians in the scene. It's not like maybe some other places where people get big off of a hit song and then they just go out and they play to their big audiences and then they come home and they don't do anything. Like this is a music scene where I mean, you can see George Porter Jr. every Monday at the Maple Leaf if he's not on the road, and John Cleary's playing over there all the time. All these great artists that are really legendary, but you can go see what they're up to.
Yeah, you got Trombone Shorty. I mean, Tab
Mhm.
Benoit lives down there. Chris Thomas King. I mean, it's endless the great amount of musicians
Yeah,
that are in New Orleans.
for sure. For sure,
So,
man. Yeah, it's inspiring.
so when did you put your first band together?
Well, so it's kind of, I mean, I played around with different musicians, and I had you know a rock band that I did some stuff with, and I really started releasing stuff under my own name in the bluesy rock vein in 2017. So prior to that, in the years prior to that, I was playing guitar for different people around New Orleans, and I yeah, I hooked up with Tab Benoit, and we started talking about making a record together, and he produced my first record under my own name, and then took me out on tour for a couple of years, opening his shows. And so yeah, that kind of that was 2017, and then 2020 I did another one with Luther Dickinson producing and stuff. So I kind of my trajectory as a band leader under my own name, doing bluesy rock music, stretches back about 8 years. But prior to that, I was doing all kinds of stuff, playing with different people, and doing all kinds of things.
So you were guitar for hire during that period, I take it.
Yeah, I did a lot of that. And, for me, honestly, like I said, I had had other projects where I was writing songs and releasing music and stuff. But, um, I really got back to just feeling like I wanted to soak up as much culture in New Orleans as I could. I was playing with funk bands and brass bands and, you know, even a little Zydeco and stuff. And, stuff that was a little bit far from the stuff that I play and write now, at least on the surface. But all of that stuff worked its way in to what I do. There's always a little funk in my songs, even if they seem like they're, blues or rock and roll or whatever. But there's always a little bit of, that that New Orleans groove in there. And a lot of that came from playing with different bands. And, you just get thrown in the mix. There was artists I played with down here where they wouldn't have any rehearsal, nor tell me what they were going to play, nor tell me what key it was in. They would just literally start playing on the gig, and I would just have to figure out what key it's in and something to do that went along with it. And that is like a great training, because it really gets you used to just seeing how it makes you feel, and responding to it,
So
and getting in the groove.
they were teaching you how to be a professional musician, to be able to just run right from it once you hear the first
I mean,
note.
some people, New Orleans professional, some
Yeah.
people would say showing up with musicians that don't know what's going to be played is not professional. Depends where you come from. But in New Orleans, it's kind of, there's a lot of jokes made about how things are here. I mean, there's a, um, the city is famous for being loose around the edges, but, I think there's a beauty in that. It doesn't work for every band. It's not what I would do for my band. I wouldn't call somebody
Right.
on that didn't know anything. But it works for certain stuff. And especially like with the brass band stuff and the funk, some of it, you can be a little loose getting into the song and a little loose coming out of it. But as long as you really gel and lock in, and you're in the pocket for the, you find each other and you listen to. Yeah. I mean, I always have gravitated toward improvisation, and there's always been an aspect of that in everything that I do. Uh, but it's different when you're improvising over, your own song versus also being able to throw in the mix on other stuff. And I think that's a valuable thing that really every musician can benefit from. It's
Yeah.
just playing with different people and um, learning how to really not rely on memorization, but listening and feeling.
Well, you got to listen. That's the whole thing. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree.
So tell me about Tab Benoit and touring with Tab, opening for Tab. What was that like for you?
It was great. I mean, I learned so much from, he's such an amazing performer. And, he really, I mean, I find a lot of inspiration from him because he really plays in a way that is, he goes for it. He really gives it a lot of energy and puts his heart into it. And, it's being able to tour with him and see his show night after night. Um, I certainly, probably learned a thing or two, definitely did. And it was great. I mean, he originally, I thought I was going to go out and open for him solo, because the idea was I was going to ride on the bus, and, I couldn't really take my band with me. So I was just going to have to open solo. And then he said, why don't I play drums for you? And, Corey, his bass player, why didn't Corey play bass for you? And I was like, yeah, that's great,
Wow, that's great.
So I opened up the shows, and he would come out and play drums, before he would go up and do
Yep.
his headline set. And yeah, I met a lot of great people that way, and some people that are still in touch with me and stuff. And yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, he likes to play drums. I've seen him do it a few times, even on his own sets doing it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and he played drums on the record too, the Burn It Down record that we recorded at his place. Um, and yeah, that was, I think it's fun when you can get, the producer involved in some kind of way, if it's the right person, because it just made for less people in the room.
Mhm.
It was just Tab, me, and Corey, and that was really how we made the record. So it was just the three of us, and I think it came out really good.
Well, he's just not a producer. He's a musician too, so that helps.
Right. Yeah, and pretty much all of the producers I've worked with have been musicians, but yeah, that was a great experience. And then of course I did the Below Sea Level record was the next one, and I did that with Luther and Cody Dickinson. With Luther produced and Cody Dickinson played the drums, and I did that up at their place in North Mississippi. So yeah, I always like I find that it's helpful if the producer is an artist, and especially if they're an artist that I like what they do. Definitely Luther's a big, influence, and somebody I look up to a lot. So, uh, yeah, I mean, and I like the relaxed vibe. There's no suits in the room. It's just musicians having fun.
So you've opened for some other people too. Tell me a little bit about that. Those people you've opened for, and ones that you like opening for.
I mean, I've liked opening for everybody. I mean, Um, the other one that I've opened up for the most next to Tab would be Samantha Fish. We toured for a good year, solid year plus, a little bit more than a year. And I was, opening up her shows, and that was I mean, she's great. That's a great crew. And we would jam at the end of every show, which was awesome. So that was great too. I mean, her crowd really. There would always there's always like some people in each town. Maybe you've that already know you from something before, but then she would have these big crowds that maybe didn't know me, and they were really receptive and really quick to come on board. And we made a lot of new friends and fans that way. So it's a great experience. I mean, we did that all the way across the country, West Coast, East Coast, everywhere.
She's a rocker too. That which helps you to a little bit for your rock roots, starting out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think her audience, I really, they were really open-minded. And that's something that I like, because, it's difficult a little bit when, I feel most natural in a more high intensity zone. Like, I certainly have soft songs, and we'll do a slow blues now and then and stuff, but it's original music, and it's a little more high energy. So it can be hard sometimes to find the right bands to share a bill with, because if they're more relaxed, they don't really like a higher intensity band opening up for them.
Yep.
So, and we're dynamic. It's not like it's an assault or anything, but it's just, I like to be able to give it everything, and that worked really well for her set, because they were doing the same thing. They were all, full throttle, and the audience loved it. And so it was a good pairing, and she's a great person, good friend.
Yeah, you can see why that would work, because you're getting her all psyched up to get on after you, to just
Yeah.
keep going, just keep it going.
Yeah, and and that's what's great is like I find most of the people I've worked with, I mean, there's no kind of ego battle going on. It's like everything adds to each other. You get excited. You want to play a really good show because you're playing for somebody that you know is going to play a really good show, and then maybe vice versa. Maybe they get them jazzed up backstage because they can
Yep.
hear the energy getting pumped up. So I think most of the time, pretty much everybody I've worked with, there's really a mutual uh, respect and encouragement and everything across the board.
How about some of the older blues guys? Have you had any interaction with some of those guys? There's not many left, but there are
Yeah.
some.
I mean, I was, lucky enough to do some blues cruises with Taj Mahal and Buddy Guy, and definitely met those guys and everything. I didn't play on stage with them, but I was able to at least see them up close. Several times. Saw BB King from the side of the stage, like back sort of the last year he was performing. Um, so I definitely have taken a lot, have a tremendous admiration and respect for those guys. Though I had never played on stage with them, but we just opened for Walter Trout last year. That was great. Walter's amazing. Um, but yeah, like you said, I mean, it's sort of you got to see people while you can, because you never know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I have tried to take advantage of that, every chance I can, to see those legends that really started it, or didn't, even if they didn't necessarily start it, they're like they started the transition into rock and roll, in a lot of ways. Like
Yep.
they had the people they learned from, but then, I mean, you take a guy like Buddy Guy. I mean, it's like, Hendrix is, picked up things from Buddy Guy, and like all these rock artists that are more well known. A lot of that stems back from those guys. So yeah, definitely a treasure.
Let's talk about the records, your records that you've put out. You have a live one that's out, that just came out last week, right? Last
Yeah,
Friday,
it
I
just
think.
came out Friday, live in Mississippi. It's great. It's we I like the live thing a lot, and I really was excited to put out one with Roof Records, because it will get a lot more people. So we've got vinyl and CDs available all over the world, and it's a unedited, just raw live show, but with hi-fi sound quality. Um, and yeah, it was a great. We recorded it at this place in Biloxi, Ground Zero, which is a really nice venue over there that we've been playing for about a couple of years. And I just wanted to kind of record something where we were in a place where a lot of the roots of this music came from. And I had recorded a live record in New Orleans, and I figured, let's do one over in Mississippi. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it came out.
That's good. And people can get it, yeah, at your website. You have a website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they can get it everywhere, but I always encourage people to get it from my website. I can sign it. We throw in. We've been doing, which I think we still have some left, but we've been doing like a free koozie with the new live record, and we put some stickers and stuff in there, and always autograph it and stuff like that. And so yeah, I always encourage people. It's ericjohansen.com. And yeah, and then, and of course it's available streaming everywhere as well.
So what made you decide to put a live album out? I know you're kind of a live guy. You like to do a lot
Yeah.
of live stuff, but sometimes people decide they don't want to do the live album. They want to do a regular record, but live albums give you a better understanding of who that artist is, I think.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the opinion of a lot of people, and especially, I think it differentiates the pop world from the roots world to some extent.
Yep.
And, I don't put myself in any kind of box, but um, I'm certainly more uh, about the live experience than, you know, say a pop artist might be, in the sense that, that feeling of improvisation on stage, playing from your heart and playing something differently than you played last night. That's such an important part of it for me. And you can put that in the jam band category, or the roots rock, or the
Yep.
blues, or whatever. But even jazz and funk and all these other styles, they all have that in common as well. So the fact that so much of what makes that music call to me is that feeling of just getting lost in it, and just really being elevated beyond what you can do by yourself. The audience there and the band together, that makes it happen.
Yep.
And it's not possible without all of that, really. So I think to capture a snapshot of that and have people able to check that out, as well as the album version,
Yep.
which, when we record in the studio, I try to keep that ethic the same. I mean, we really try to just play live in the studio, but there, like you say, there is something about that live energy, and you know, there's people that they would prefer the live thing. And I understand. So yeah, I've, over the years, I had a live record come out in 2022, and I've seen people choose that a lot of the time when they're at the merch table.
Yep.
So definitely, while I would encourage people to check out the studio records, of course, as well, this is something that I wanted to do in between studio albums.
How'd you get on Roof? That was a question I was going to ask you.
Man, I met Roof.
Thomas.
Yeah, I met Thomas Roof back when he was working with Cyril Neville, who I played with for a while. I mean, even into a couple of years ago. I mean, well, I'll still play with him every now and then when the schedules align or when something comes up. But he was working with releasing Cyril's record, and then the Royal Southern Brotherhood thing started. So I met him, I think it was in Vegas at the Blues Bender or something, like years ago. And then, yeah, I was just kind of looking for the right home for my Deep in the Dirty record. And Roof really, they have a bigger reach, I think, than a lot of them out there now. The industry's changing, and you can put out music. Anybody can put out music. So the question is, what can the label help you with? And I think in Roof's case, they, I think, helped me break into Europe a little bit more. And so,
Distribution across the world. Yep.
yeah, so we, like I say, a lot of the things that we did, some tours last year, that were thanks to Roof Records, and we'll, be following up with a tour later this year that, returning to some of the places we played last year, adding some new places. So I think that has definitely been a benefit of working with them, just to expand into the European market.
Have you ever had a chance to play Jazz Fest down there in New Orleans?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm playing this year. I didn't play last year because I was in Europe, but then I played the year before that. I've played it many times with other people. I even sat in with the Neville Brothers on one of their last shows at Jazz Fest. Um, yeah, Jazz Fest is great. I mean, it's not only the festival, which we're playing Jazz Fest this year on the first Sunday, April 27th, but it's also the nighttime stuff. So like we've got, you know, a couple of nighttime shows during the fast week. We're going to do an in-store performance at Louisiana Music Factory. So there's other stuff that goes on around the festival for that week and a half or so. So it's always a great time.
So, do you get to play any clubs locally on a regular basis outside of touring?
Yeah, I would say the Maple Leaf is kind of my home base, and that's one of my favorite spots anywhere, and I live pretty close to it as well, so it's just kind of the neighborhood spot for me, but it's also just a legendary place. So we play that probably every couple of months, maybe. I'm playing Tipitina's Friday. That's obviously another great legendary New
Yep.
Orleans venue. And yeah, then there's a place called the Broadside that I've started doing stuff at. But we don't play out like a ton in town. I'd say we do it once every couple months or something like that.
That's
But
good. That's good. You
yeah,
have the availability and you can do it. That's really good.
yeah, it's important. I mean, I really I like playing things in New Orleans that the locals go to, you know, which is why I love the places that I mentioned, because obviously we have a lot of tourism here and that's great. Uh, but I like sort of building up the local crowd and, seeing familiar faces at the shows.
So, you told me your favorite place in New Orleans. How about in the rest of the country, in the U.S. when you're playing? Where's your favorite place to play?
Oh man,
Tough
there's
question, isn't it?
yeah, there's so many cool places. I mean, you know, there's places that are super nice, like we just played Jimmy's up in Portsmouth,
Yeah.
and that place is super nice. I'm going to try to get back there later this year.
Yeah, when you do,
But
you should come and play on my show. It's not that far.
okay,
Half hour,
yeah,
if that.
okay, cool. Yeah, we'll have to do that. Yeah, Jimmy's was amazing. Just great people and just an amazing place. But then there's also those rock places that are just more of a dive bar type place. Um, Man, trying to think of the best ones, but I mean, I really like both vibes. Standing up and rowdy, and also the seated vibe can be
Yeah.
good too. Um, Man, yeah, it's so hard. I mean, we're doing Evanston Space, um, north of Chicago, coming up here in June, beginning of June, and that's a great room. That's more that seated vibe. And then we're gonna do the Caboose in Minneapolis, which is like the rowdy rock club.
Yeah.
So I like to do a mix of both. I think both things have their strengths,
So
you know.
where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years with your career?
Well, I'd like to keep going to Europe. I'd like to keep doing that as a at least once or twice a year, building that up. And really, I just want to keep hitting the road more. It's the kind of thing where there are certain bands where they'll tour once to promote an album, and then that's kind of it or something. And I don't really look at it that way. I want to keep showing up, and I think it's important to do that. So, for me, it's all incremental. It's all, if there's more people there this time than there were last time, and if
That's a
you know,
bonus. There's a bonus
yeah,
right there.
yeah, and it's there's always going to be you sometimes you have a high of a night where you're like, wow, I didn't expect that many people to come out, and then you might hit a new city, and it might feel a little rough one night, but
Yep.
that's all part of just kind of, sometimes you've got to show up and you've got to be real to people in their town. And so, honestly, for the next few years and stuff, I just really want to continue moving, especially after, experiencing a period of time where there weren't many shows. I want to get out there and play as much as we can. And definitely going back in the studio later this year. Things have been so busy, but I'm really eager to go back in the studio and work on a new record. So
Do you have a lot of songs ready, or just a few?
I kind of tend to let things float around until there's a sort of a deadline, because I feel something about that helps me know which things fit together and which things are worth hammering out further. And because there's this funny thing with writing, especially with this kind of stuff. It's not operatic, with 13 instruments or
Right.
something. It's a trio stuff, and it's very visceral and feeling based. And it's just funny that sometimes the songs that you spend less time on and that just come to you in a flash will be the ones that stand out, and the ones that you wrestle with for a long time just don't end up working.
Yep.
So something about, I kind of like to let ideas and melodies and lyrical ideas float around, and then start to coalesce when I sort of know that we're going in the studio.
That's an interesting way to say it. I've never heard anybody say that they just kind of wait, and then you make it all happen when you have studio time. That's pretty cool. You can do that.
Well, I mean, I do constantly like capture things, and I just don't necessarily go, all right, well, there's one song, and then there's the second song, and then I just don't necessarily um make them get finished, if that makes sense. And maybe that's, that, I don't know, there's no right way to do it, but for me,
It's when it
I,
comes to you,
I
basically.
like to keep things fresh. So I try to not let them get too stale or too overworked too far in advance of capturing them.
Well, it's good you can do that. A lot of people can't do that. They have to put them down and save them, and then when it comes time to do it, they're figuring out how it's going to sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to that being in the moment thing. Part of what I'm trying to do is, create a moment, create a feeling and a vibe, and elevate, hopefully elevate the listener to someplace. So there's a part of it that's storytelling, and that's an important part. But there's also a part of it that is something that you can't quite describe, which is just like that feeling of you know having the wind in your hair or something, just like that. Just there's a thing that you might be trying to get across, to just like free people from, free myself, free everybody,
Yep.
just create this sense of freedom and this sense of possibility and excitement that uh you might not always feel. And I think that live music is just the thing that does that for me more than anything else. So that's a big part of it. It's a little less tangible than saying, "Oh, this is a song about when this happened," but it's an important part of it for me.
Well, just so you know, after I rebroadcast this interview this weekend, I'm going to play your new live album all the way through, so the listeners
Oh,
can hear
wow.
it.
Cool, man. That's awesome, man. Thank you.
The old album side radio is what I'm going to do. I've been doing it
Yeah.
forever.
What? Okay, well, yeah, man, you'll have to keep me posted on that, and I'll try to get some people to tune in and listen to that.
Yeah, I'll send you. If you, I don't know if I have your email, but we'll figure that out. I know how
Yeah,
to get a hold of Doug. I'll have him get it to you.
yeah, for sure, man.
But yeah, it's www.wuml.org, 4 p.m. Eastern, and I will play the interview at 4 p.m. Eastern on this Saturday.
Okay,
And then right after the interview, you're going to be my new Blue CD of the week, like I do every week.
that's awesome, man. Thank you.
So
That's
the
great.
listeners get to hear your music that way.
Nice. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So tell the listeners again how they can find out about you. I know website. How about social media?
Yeah, website ericjohansen.com, and of course, all the links are there. But on Facebook, I'm Eric Johansen 504, which is our area code here in New Orleans, and Instagram, same thing, Eric Johansen 504. And YouTube is just Eric Johansen. But if you go to ericjohansen.com, you can find all of the relevant links there. So yeah, that's the
Cool.
best way. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy day and your busy life. And hope that the tour goes well this time coming up.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it, and I hope I get back up to the Boston area soon.
Yeah, when you come up, you should connect with me. I'm going to have Doug give me all your contact info. If we can work it out, I'd love to have you come and play on the show before
Yeah,
you play at Jimmy's or anywhere around the area. It'd be great to have you.
yeah, man, for sure, for sure.
It'll give
Looking
you a way
forward.
to promote the show too. If we can do it, we can figure it out.
Yeah, no, that'd be great, man.
All
Sounds like
right.
well, cool. Well, thank you for this, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too, and have a great day.
You too, man.